Hi, I'm here with Jay, who runs Adventure Travel Company On The Go Tours. And as you can see, we're having this interview in a particularly special spot. This is Jay's office, and I'm really intrigued to hear more about how he's managed this. Jay, is this always what you did? Have you always led this
Sat
unbelievable
under the
life?
clouds. No, it's normally a bit sunnier than this, really. No, I've been doing this for about almost 10 years, 7, 8 years now. And yeah, it's um, it's a fun business. I really enjoy what I do.
How did you land up getting into it? Have you always been in this business, or did you do something? Did you have a previous avatar?
Oh, many previous avatars, I suppose, but I think the best way to describe it is a happy accident. It was very much unintended, and I worked in the corporate world for a little while. Did a bit of management consultancy, and it was all very good. I earned a lot of money from it, but I didn't really particularly enjoy it. So much so, if any of the companies I worked for went bust, I probably really wouldn't have given too much of a damn. So I think I just arrived at the point where I thought I needed to do something else, and I knew what I didn't want to do, but I didn't particularly know what I wanted to do. So yeah, I sort of threw the corporate career in and continued to do a little bit of consultancy just to sort of get by. Dabbled in a restaurant venture, which fortunately didn't get off the ground because the last thing I'd like to do right now, I think, is run a restaurant. And yeah, I was with my friend Scott, who was I'd been involved in helping him set up a travel business, and he was at the point where you know the business had sort of started and wanted, it was just an opportunity. I was just there at the right time to come along and help him. And I only really intended to come along and help him for a few months to set a few things up using the experience that I had. And it just went from there, before I knew it. And, 8 years on, I'm still doing it. Yeah.
So that's interesting then. So you had no particular idea what you wanted to do or where you wanted to go, but you just chanced upon it, and now this is
Well, I
taking
think
you.
I knew I quite enjoyed the idea of business.
Yeah.
And so I always felt that I'd be quite good at sort of running a business.
Yeah.
I didn't quite know what form that might take. I like problem solving. Um, you know, I like making something out of almost nothing. Maybe. There's a great satisfaction in building a business. I would say that at the end of the day, too, in what everyone does, the product's very important. And we take a lot of people around the world, and they just have so many people write on and say, "Wow, that was the best 2 weeks of my life," or whatever. So there's always that too. So it's quite an inspiring field to be in anyway. Yeah, and you learn a lot. You travel the world, work with people from very very different cultures. Very enlightening experience for me. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, I think that one of the things people get really stuck on is sort of feeling like, they need to have figured out what they're going to do before they can go off and do it. And what's interesting about what you're saying is that it's more responding to an opportunity in the moment rather than a grand plan. Would you say that that's how
I
it
don't think
was for
there's
you?
I don't think there's necessarily a prescriptive path for any of these things. I think everyone's got a different path.
Yeah.
But in my case, um, yeah, there was an opportunity to just do something that I really wanted to do, which was just help get a business sorted out, and I just went from there. So yeah, I certainly didn't have a grand plan, and I still don't have a grand plan.
And you were telling me earlier that you pretty much run your business from various different locations around the globe. And tell me more about that and how you've managed to pull that off. Because that's a pretty dream existence for most people, to run a really successful business, but to do it, pretty much location unspecific.
Well, I don't think you can ever substitute being somewhere in person. So that's always, you know, at the end of the day, everything is very social, and I think all business is really about people and communications, really. So, but since we have offices, in a few countries, it's just not possible to be at all of them at the same time. So as a result, I do split my time primarily between Australia and London, and technology is really what sort of enabled me to do that effectively. And more recently, I think because running a business takes a lot of energy, takes it can be quite consuming in some senses. I think it's a good idea to get away from that space every now and then. So I love the beach, so I spend a bit of time in the Caribbean, but I work while I'm here, and it's fundamentally technology that's enabled us to do that. Yeah. So people still feel our presence, I suppose, because we're in touch with them constantly, and but we're not there necessarily physically. And then when we go down to the Australian office or down to the London office, it's just a different energy again, and we sort of buzz everyone up again by being there. But we don't have to be there all the time.
Yeah.
And I think it's fundamentally technology that's driven that.
Is that something?
Enabled it. Yeah.
Yeah. That's fantastic. I mean, and I think that's true, and that does seem to be what's liberating the way people work these days.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of our staff. I mean, we don't have an office in Perth. We've got two people that work from there. One of them works part time because she's a mum. We've got someone based in Simoon who looks after a lot of our what we call ground operations, and she's based out of Egypt. She lives in Egypt. She's married to an Egyptian. And yeah, so we haven't taken the approach of people having to come to the office and clocking at 9 and clocking out at a certain time.
Yeah.
The important thing is the job's done, and technology enables it to be done from wherever we are in the world. But we all do come together, and once a year, our entire team get together in one of our destinations, because, like I say, you still can't substitute the importance of people face to face.
Yeah, totally agree.
So it's a balance. You have both. And you have the flexibility to have both, I suppose. Whereas perhaps 10 years ago you didn't have that flexibility because the technology wasn't there to support it.
Sounds like a great place to work. So, what do you look for in the people that work for you?
Ireland sounds like a great place to work.
well, I was trying to avoid that because I'm a little jealous.
Anyway. What do I look for in people?
That sounds like a fantastic. I'm sure it's quite a competitive industry to get into. It sounds like you adapt your business to help your staff also live the lives that they want to live.
Yeah, everything's a two-way. It's got to be a balance, I suppose, between what's good for every individual and also what's good for us as an overall business. And that's very much our philosophy.
Yeah.
That equation needs to be balanced. Otherwise, either people are unhappy because they don't feel that they're getting back enough, or I'm unhappy because I feel someone's sludging about being lazy. So, in terms of what we look for in people, I suppose it's, again, it's not prescriptive. I think it comes down to the individual. I love initiative, so I think people who make an effort, maybe. I'll give you some examples. I mean, Melinda has been with us now for 7 years, and she's been with us in London and then moved to Perth because she wanted to start a family there, and then went to Brisbane for a little while. She found us at a travel expo, and she just hunted around getting to all travel companies because that's what she wanted to sort of get into.
Yeah. So she found you. She came to you and found her way.
And Simoon, who I mentioned earlier, who was in Egypt, she was working in London on something completely different and did one of our trips and really loved Egypt. And she moved to Egypt and worked for another company down there because we didn't have an opportunity at the time. And through a turn of events again, has now sort of helped us and take our sort of business further as well. So, I think we're a bit of a quirky bunch, and people have generally sought us out, and also, word of mouth. So we're looking for someone. The team would generally find someone in a way. So things also come through that way, I suppose, through just connections.
Yeah.
I don't think we've ever been through the formal sort of recruitment agency orientated thing. So, but I think fundamentally it's more, initiative, I suppose, really, and energy, and being, I suppose if someone wants to get into something that they enjoy, they just got to have a crack at it.